Quinn considered this entire charade to be ridiculous. It was quite clear to him that the tablet Jane held already had the information on him from his previous school. They should know that he had never possessed any ability and that his financial status would never allow him to buy one. And yet he struggled with the answer to her question. Before coming to military school, Quinn had done a bit of research himself. Unlike Peter, he already knew that the military freely gave all students who had no ability their very own ability book. Everyone would receive a Level 1 Earth ability book. This way, all those students like Peter would suddenly become indebted to the military. Not only that, but the military also had a hold on nearly all of the Earth-type ability books and the corresponding skill books. In other words, if you ever wanted to increase your strength, you would have to stay loyal to the military, and in return, they would give you more power. Before Quinn had been granted that system from his book, he had made up his mind to accept it. Even if he didn't join the military after 2 years, an Earth ability was handy to have. With it, one should be able to find quick employment, since the Earth ability was useful in construction. And this was exactly where the problem came in. Quinn already seemed to have an ability, which meant he was unable to learn a new one. The ability book they would give him was practically useless. He was also pretty sure they would keep tabs on every student they had given the ability book to, meaning the teachers would expect him to use Earth powers one of these days. Quinn took a deep breath and answered, "I don't have an ability." Just like before, the hooded man standing by Jane's side plucked a book from thin air and handed her the book. Her eyes were cold and emotionless as she handed it to Quinn. Quinn took the book from Jane, but suddenly another screen appeared before him.
Unable to learn this ability. Would you like to convert the book into 10 EXP?
Quinn had somewhat expected the system to display the first message, but the second one truly surprised him. He was really tempted to take the book and use it as a form of EXP, but he knew there would be questions asked later on. "I'm sorry, but I don't want it," Quinn said, as he handed the book back to Jane. The instructor looked at him with raised eyebrows, the first sign of her being able to actually display any sort of emotion. In her 5 years working as an instructor, this was the first time someone with no ability had rejected the book. "Please give me one moment." Jane walked away from the group of students, who all looked at Quinn as if he was some sort of freak. Once she was far enough away from them, her hand went to her ear to activate the electronic piece inside. "A student by the name of Quinn Talon doesn't want to accept the ability book. I await instructions on how to deal with this outlier," Jane asked, speaking into her earpiece.
"No need to force him. Just let him take the test and report back if he shows promise,"
the mysterious man on the other side instructed her. As the man hung up, he couldn't help but think that this Quinn seemed like an interesting student. He began to check on the corresponding file, which left him puzzled. The student had no ability, and according to their research, he also should not have any relations with the group Pure either.
"Let's see how long you can survive in this cruel world, Quinn," the man said to himself, leaning back into his seat.
Jane adjusted her suit and headed back to the group of students. "Apologies for keeping you all waiting," Jane noted stiffly. Then she turned to Quinn. "Although you don't wish to accept the ability book, you're still required to take the test." He found this to be quite the bizarre request. Was there really a need for him to take the test as someone without an ability? It felt like the only reason they wanted Quinn to continue was to humiliate him for refusing their help. Making him feel small and insignificant might lead to him approaching the military on his own and eventually beg for the ability book they were handing out. "Please follow me." Jane took Quinn a little further out onto the field, where Quinn noticed that there were huge craters in the ground, burn marks, patches of the ground scorched and burned like there had been some fire. This was all done during the previous testing of contestants. Please proceed to destroy the targets in front of you as quickly as you can, Jane instructed him. The test will begin immediately. As soon as Jane finished talking, 3 targets popped up out of the ground at random locations around the wasteland. They were metal round targets with a red dot in the center. The problem was, when Quinn tried to look for the targets, everything appeared like a blur in the distance. He noticed that his perfect eyesight suddenly wasn't so perfect anymore. Is this because I'm out in the sunlight? Quinn thought. Quinn had no choice but to slowly run up to each of the targets and hit them with his fist, one by one. Unsurprisingly, his time ended up being incredibly slow. After this, Jane asked him to complete 2 other tests. The second one was in regards to this strength test. All he needed to do was punch into a huge drum-like machine. Quinn gave it his best shot and hit the drum as hard as he could. The drum vibrated and made a small sound, eventually displaying a digital number in the center. Strength 5, Jane announced, and noted it down on her tablet. For the final test, there was a big circular machine with many holes on its front. It hovered over the ground without touching it. Once the test started, the machine fired holographic spikes at the examinee. All Quinn needed to do was avoid being hit by the spikes for as long as possible. The machine went up in levels and eventually got faster and shot out more spikes. It was a torturous process, and Quinn soon got tired of dodging and was hit. The machine whirred and ceased working. Agility 5, Jane announced this time, and once again noted it down. Quinn had heard the words from Jane's mouth, and it started to make him think if there was some kind of link between the scores she had given him. This test had focused on agility, and he had scored a 5, which was the same as his system. The same was true for the test before, which had revealed his 5 in strength. Quinn sighed internally. If only he could have taken these tests at night, he would have most likely doubled his scores. However, if his ability was indeed one allowing him to evolve, he could always try to take that test again. Quinn Talon, your overall current power level is that of a level 1 ability user, Jane informed him. Quinn clenched his fist and went back to stand with the others. He knew that the days ahead of him as a level 1 user would be harsh, but hopefully that would change in due time.
The test continued with Layla being the next one to step forward. She was the only one among them who had a weapon on her back. Her weapon didn't look like a regular bow. It was different from the ones that people had used a long time ago. This bow was carved using the bones of some beast. It was polished to a shiny bronze, which glittered in the light. Quinn had heard about these beast weapons, but this was the first time seeing one. In fact, he would not have recognized it as such if it were not for the whispers from Vorden beside him. When the human race had been attacked by the Dalki, the human technology had advanced fast by replicating their invaders' technology, and with this, the humans had gained the ability to travel to other planets using portals. These planets would often contain different levels of beasts. The stronger the beast was, the better weapon you could make out of it, provided you could kill it first, of course. It was strange to see someone as young as her, who had most likely never been to another planet, possess a beast weapon. Layla stood in the center of the field and waited for the test to start. Unlike when it was Quinn's turn, Jane waited until the girl was ready before starting. It was quite a difference in treatment. When the test started, 5 targets appeared in different areas of the wasteland. Layla immediately took out 5 arrows and placed them in her bow, shooting them all off at once in the same direction. The arrows shot out fast and strong, but then suddenly the 5 arrows split off, each in their own direction, each of them heading to a different target. "What a good combo!" Vorden praised. Although telekinesis is considered quite weak, when paired with her bow to control the arrow's movements, it's very useful. Simultaneously, all 5 of the targets were hit, and she completed the first test. This one demonstration showed Quinn how useful beast weapons could be. Even if one had a weak ability, they could make it strong. Quinn wasn't completely sure what his ability was yet, but even if it just increased his stats as he leveled up, he imagined that pairing it with a weapon like a beast sword might also turn him powerful. On the strength test, Layla didn't do too well. She used her powers to try to move her fist even faster when punching the drum, but in the end, her score was only an 8. In the last test, Quinn also saw her do quite badly. When the test began, Layla had attempted to use her ability on the spikes coming at her. Unfortunately, she had been unaware that they were holograms and not the real thing, so it had no effect. This led to her nearly being hit at the start. After that, Layla relied on her actual body to avoid the spikes, yet she ended up getting the same score as Quinn. "It looks like you have the power level of a level 2 ability user," Jane informed her. As soon as the instructor had typed it in, the number 2 appeared on Layla's wrist. Quinn could tell Layla wasn't happy. She was red in the face as she stomped back towards the group. Quinn thought the test wasn't really fair. Her ability level might be that of a level 2, but when used with a bow, Quinn felt she could probably beat some level 3 or perhaps even level 4 ability users. Still, even if he voiced his opinion, who would listen to a measly level 1 like him? Quinn was starting to take note that the Academy really did only measure the power level of your ability and not your fighting ability. The next person to take the test was Erin. She walked forward confidently without even looking at anyone else. She stood in the center of the testing field, waiting for the test to start. 5 random targets appeared across the wasteland. She quickly formed an ice spear and chucked it at the first targets, hitting it dead on. She repeated this 4 more times at an incredible speed, nearly clearing them all just as fast as Layla did. For the next test, Erin's performance was even more impressive. She started to gather ice in both her palms, and then after a minute or so of gathering her power, a huge ice column shot out from her hands and hit the center of the drum dead on. The drum rang out louder than it had before, and the number kept going up until it had eventually reached 50. "No wonder she's so confident," Vorden noted, a thoughtful expression on his face. Quinn realized it was a good thing the two of them didn't fight, otherwise Vorden would have ended up a dead man. Finally, when it was time for the last test, the instructor told her she wasn't allowed to use her ability and should just dodge. Erin didn't object, and the test started immediately. She managed to do well, moving swiftly, avoiding each spike, but eventually the machine had gotten too fast, and she ended up getting hit. "Impressive. Best result so far. So far you're the 3rd first-year student with a power level of 5. Erin started walking back to her group, her face expressionless and unimpressed, as if she knew what she was going to get all along. Either that or she didn't really care about the whole thing. Finally, the last person to take the test in the group was Vorden. "Time I show you what I got. Wish me luck." Quinn had no clue who Vorden was talking to, but quickly realized it was him, after Vorden winked in his direction as he walked off to the center of the field. Could that idiot actually be strong? Quinn wondered. Most of the time, people who were strong were either arrogant, openly flaunting their powers, or kept quiet about them, but Vorden was a strange person. He wasn't exactly arrogant, more like flashy. When the test started, everyone's mouth was left wide open at what they were seeing. On every single one of the tests, Vorden copied the exact same moves as Erin. He used the very same ice ability, performed just as well as Erin. "See, I told you I was strong." Vorden gleefully pointed at the number 5 to his seemingly new best friend, Quinn.
Subscribe to the Pocket FM Blockbuster YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notifications. Check out our channel for more exciting shows.